Good Tuesday morning, Mount Olive Church family and friends, and everybody else that joins us online for our devotions. Glad you could be with us another week. And man, what a great message Sunday on faithfulness and the secret of success from the pastor. And I was telling Brother Scotty Sunday after church, we went and had lunch. The family did, and I was telling him, I said, I know I've said this before, but and I told the pastor this when we were in the baptistry. From start of the service to finish, it may have been, one of my favorite services that I've ever been in. And I got to thinking about that throughout the day on Sunday, and I know there were a couple when after Lauren had been sick, and we, the Lord moved in her life and what He done, and we come back to the church after coming home from Memphis, and it seemed like at those times that we had some good services in. But man, I'm telling you, just God's presence Sunday was just amazing. Andrea singing, I always love to hear her, and so thankful for her, and just everything all the way through to the baptism. Wonderful service. So I've took up a minute of time here, and I haven't even got on my devotion. Tuesday morning devotion here, and I want to start off with what you can see on my screen. Let me get this pulled up so you can see I've got this rise up. That was something that I wrote on my notes that the pastor gives out on Sunday mornings. It was something that I wrote down that hit my mind several times in the situations. Was point one, and abandoned and rejected, betrayed, point two, and then oppressed is point three. And I'm going to touch a little bit on the oppressed today. But rise up, that was something that kind of stuck in my mind. And the pastor, I think, mentioned that once or twice. But it was something that it seemed like every time things went against Joseph, whether it was the situations that he was in or the betrayal, the slavery and oppression, no matter what it was, Joseph always rose up. He always rose to the occasion, right? And I thought that was just something that really stuck with me. But there was a key point in doing that. And it was, in the very first thing we wrote on the top of our paper in our notes was Joseph was faithful to God, and God was faithful to Joseph. So I think if we look at that, we know that that's the key, right? It was being faithful. So that's kind of what I want to touch on just a little bit here. And as I said, I'm going to talk about the oppression point, which was point three. In Genesis 37:36 says the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. Can't talk this morning. Captain of the guard. So, Joseph was in a bad situation, and Pastor done so well of talking about, don't take that lightly, as he was in a bad slavery situation. And you see, if you go read that sometime, you'll see that God's favor was always on him, but Joseph was always faithful in what he did. And he found favor in Potiphar's eyes and those that he were around, the captain of the guard. And he found favor in those people's eyes because of his faithfulness to God. God blessed everything that Joseph's hand was laid upon because Joseph was faithful to God. So that's kind of what I want to touch on here. Even out of his darkest moments, greatness come from it. Have you ever thought of that? That from the darkest moments in our life can bring out the greatest blessings. Wow. I can look back and see a lot of times in my life that were very, very dark times, and God always brought out blessings out of that and opportunities out of that, whether that's opportunities to witness to other people. I never knew 20 years ago when Lauren was fighting cancer, I never knew how many people at that time that we would be able to talk to down the road. People would say, oh, you'll be able to help somebody one day down the road. And I was like, you know what? I don't worry about 20 years from now. I'm thinking about right now. And it was hard to focus on that then. But now I see of times that God has opened doors and allowed us to talk to other people. God can bring the greatest things as long as we're faithful. Faithful in those times of oppression, faithful in those times of darkness. God is never going to leave. He never left Joseph from day one, from the pit to being sold, to being in slavery, no matter what. He goes on later. He goes to prison. He never left him. He never left him. And he doesn't leave us in our darkest times. And so I was thinking about another one, and Pastor mentioned one part here in Acts 16 in verse 31, I think was what he was talking about with the pendulum and talking about, do you believe? And I got to thinking about that, and I said, Acts chapter 16, if you go look at that, that was a dark time for Paul and Silas. Look at this. It says, when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely, who having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast in stocks. They couldn't do anything. They were in the darkest moment of their life. But look what they done. Very next verse, at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God. The prisoners heard them. Suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bands were loosed. If we are faithful to God, and we trust in him, and we're faithful in the darkest times of our lives, when we're oppressed at the darkest situations, in slavery situations in our life, it's in those moments, if we'll be faithful, if we'll pray, if we'll sing praises to God, in that very moment, he'll send an earthquake. At that very moment, God will begin working on an earthquake in our lives to be able to shake the prison walls, to shake the stocks loose, to be able to open the door. There was a prison guard that was saved just out of what happened to them. There was a prison guard in his house was saved. Go read the rest of that chapter in Acts chapter 16 sometimes. Okay? No matter what you're going through today, praise God, sing praises unto him, pray to him, and be faithful in all that you do. Love you guys, and hope you have a great week. Pray for me. I'll pray for you.